My view is a little bit different on conversion rate when it comes to e-commerce, because if we can make that jump from 0.2 to 0.4, then you're doubling your profit straight away. So clearly very powerful stuff. As the e-commerce owner, yes, it's your job to simplify the complex, but you only have to do it once. What actions can we take now to improve our conversion rate on our Shopify store? If there's a way that you can introduce like a risk reversal, then that will overall lead to a much higher conversion rate, which means that way more people will purchase. What's next? How can we take it to the next level and start to improve our conversion rate beyond the basics? The first thing you can do to make life much easier for yourself in the long run is focus primarily on the Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked podcast, where we unlock the secrets to high-ticket dropshipping and achieving financial freedom. I'm Lewis Smith, founder of Dropship Unlocked, and I'm joined by James Eardley, client success coach at Dropship Unlocked. Each episode, we'll be sharing our experiences and providing you with the tools you need to build a successful e-commerce empire of your own. From zero to owning £1 million online business, we'll help you achieve the ultimate freedom over your time, location, and financial future. And when we're not recording the podcast episodes or running our own e-commerce businesses, you'll find us helping people like you launch their own high-ticket dropshipping businesses. To learn more about working with us, head over to dropshipunlocked.com/free. Now sit back, relax, and get ready to access your full potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast. Welcome back to the Dropship Unlocked podcast with myself, James Eardley, and I'm joined today, as always, by an e-commerce entrepreneur and founder of Dropship Unlocked, Lewis Smith. Today, we're talking about a real crucial subject in the world of e-commerce, something that can really take your business to the next level. And we're talking about conversion rate and how we can double our conversion rate through our Shopify stores. So, Lewis, tell us, why is it so important that conversion rate is optimized for our Shopify stores? Hi, James. Yeah, well, firstly, looking forward to talking about this subject today. Conversion rate is directly translated really into sales, because the more conversions this is what we call them in e-commerce, conversions, but typically within e-commerce we're talking about sales and revenue for your business. The more times we can convert what is a store visitor or somebody just viewing your website through to a purchasing customer who gives you money for one of the products on your store. So conversion rate is kind of like a key indicator of your store's effectiveness or your business's effectiveness, because it shows how well you're engaging and convincing your customers to buy. If you had a conversion rate of 0, then you might have loads of customers, but no one's ever going to give you any money, right? So you haven't really got a business there. So my view is a little bit different on conversion rate when it comes to e-commerce, because even if you disregard conversion rate totally, is the traffic is probably more important than the conversion rate. Now, what I mean by that is not all traffic or visitors to your website is created equal. So if you've got loads and loads of visitors coming to your website, but perhaps they're just not the right kinds of customers, then it doesn't really matter about tweaking things to try to improve your conversion rate, because the bigger problem is that the traffic that you're getting just isn't the right traffic. So I think the first thing you can do to make life much easier for yourself in the long run is focus primarily on the type of traffic that you get to your store, because with the right type of traffic, that then by definition defaults to helping you create a better conversion rate, because those people will be better suited to what you sell, therefore will convert higher. So you can almost not be an expert in conversion rate if you're just good enough at getting the right traffic. So having said that, that's probably a totally separate topic, and you can almost segment these things into the before the click. So everything to do with traffic, marketing, customer viewer visitor generation, and then after the click, once they click on that ad and they visit your store, that's where conversion rate optimization, or CRO, as we'll probably refer to it today, comes into play. Because they're there, they're in your store, they're looking around. How do we now maximize the percentage of those people to get them to make a purchase?
So it's a critical point to distinguish before we go into all the tactics to improve our conversion rate, that initially you have got some high quality or some good quality traffic onto your store. They're going to be much easier to convert. So now we're going to focus on the people that are onto our store and really converting those people that have put their hands up by clicking on your website to say that they are interested in your products. How can we get as many of those people that have put their hands up to go through and become a customer of ours and place an order?
Yeah, so we will dive into specific conversion rate optimization tactics, but one of the opinions I hear of some people in e-commerce who run brands where maybe they have lots of repeat purchases is actually, rather than focusing on conversion rate optimization, they focus on customer loyalty and lifetime value, and would argue that those are even more important than conversion rates. Again, because if we just think outside the box, if you're not converting customers at a particularly high rate to purchase, but the ones that you are going on to purchase again and again and again and again from you, and you build up a really good lifetime value relationship with that customer where they keep repurchasing from you, then again, it gives you room for error. It gives you buffer in that you can have your initial conversion rate be below market average or even quite poor because you're making so much back end of that transaction, that relationship. So anyway, just another point there that none of these things are definitive rules. But talking specifically about conversion rates, I mean, the first thing is that you want to give your leads them to making a sale. And one of the nice things about this is that over time, as you're simplifying and increasing and using some of the tactics that we'll talk about today to increase your customer conversion rate, it almost acts as the pulse of your business. So you can kind of, and it's one of many pulses. I wouldn't say it's the only thing you should focus on, but it's one statistic or percentage that you can keep an eye on to give you just a pulse on the physical health of your business, a bit like you would listen to your own pulse and make sure that your physical health is okay. You're doing the same with your business because it just gives you a picture of your overall business health. And we've made some really minor tweaks or seemingly minor tweaks in the past using A/B or split tests where you have the control version, which is the way things are currently, and then maybe you have a test version or a hypothesis, which might be, for example, if I change the add to cart button from green to blue, will that increase our conversion rate? Now you might think, well, just changing a button color, really? But if you let that play out and you sent 50% of your traffic to the green button page and 50% to the blue button page over a long enough time period with enough visitors through, you can get a statistically significant data point that tells you whether or not the green or the blue button was your best performing button color for that specific test to get you a higher conversion rate and therefore make you more money. And the thing that people forget is that just a minor increase in conversion rate dramatically increases your bottom line profit, because for the same amount of visitors coming to your store, if you could take your store from a 0.2 conversion rate up to a 0.4 conversion rate, you've doubled your profit because you've doubled your conversion rate, right? So with the same amount of traffic, the same marketing spend, everything else equal, your sales have doubled. And it's only a marginal increase at such low conversion rate percentages, but it's actually doubled it. So it's incredibly powerful stuff. There's lots of tools you can use for these A/B split tests. You can use tools like Google Optimize or Optimizely. There are other tools like A/B Tasty and Evolve AI and lots of different things that you can use depending on your circumstance. But it's incredible. And sites like Amazon have often got hundreds, if not thousands, of A/B tests on variables that you would not even consider would be important. And so if we can harness some of that power as well and use some of those tests as well to increase our own conversion rates, then we can get that same kind of benefit too.
Clearly, it's such a powerful tool that we can harness, such as Google Optimize. So to do the A/B test, that's the tool that I generally use. And it's so intuitive that you don't need to have any experience of A/B testing or any digital marketing background, but you just make a few tweaks to your website using Google Optimize, and then you send 50% of your customers to your original site, so you can check if that stays the same. And then you put 50% to your new tested, changed website and see the difference that makes in conversion rate. And as you said, if we can make that jump from 0.2 to 0.4 or 1 to 2%, then you're doubling your profit straight away. So clearly very powerful stuff. So initially you tied into the principles that we need to consider with conversion rate. So, a really overlying principle is making it as simple as possible for a customer to buy. And these principles tie into like human behavior and how we shop online. So it's important to understand and to shed some light on sort of customer behavior and how people go about shopping online. And so do you have any sort of statistics or any insights into how customers shop online that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so customers value convenience and transparency, right? They want easy to use platforms. They want clear information. So they just want that simplicity of transaction. And if you think back to how it used to be to complete a purchase online, it used to be really complicated. There was so much you needed to do. And so it was like you had to fill out all of the forms. A lot of the time, these things are just auto-populated now. And with things like ShopPay or PayPal, you can often just enter like your mobile number and it just auto-populates the details because you have an existing payment account with these platforms. So especially on Amazon, you don't even need to enter your details anymore. You just click buy now and slide the thing and it's done, right? So yeah, we have got some statistics here. So I'll go through some of these because they're quite insightful actually. So the first was that a report from the Baymard Institute, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, found that 27% of US online shoppers have abandoned an order in the past quarter solely due to a too long or too complicated checkout process. 27% of people abandoning it just because it was too long. And I've fallen into that 27%, and I'm sure you have as well, and many of our listeners will have done, where you going through something, maybe it's late at night, you're on your phone and it's, you're tired, but you think, I just need to pick up one of these things, whatever it is. And you're like, they're trying to get me to enter all of this details and now it's crashed and now I can't be bothered. And you just scrap the purchase, right? And you don't end up buying the thing. So that's definitely true. I can relate to that frustration that customers face.
Quite staggering actually that 1 in 4 online shoppers have had an experience where it's been too long or too complicated. So they've bounced off the site and that website has missed out on a conversion because they've made that process too long or too complicated. So we need to think about simplicity with our website. Making it basic and easy to navigate is a key first start. Also, I know a key thing for customers when they buy is trust. So knowing, liking and trusting the person or the business that they're actually buying from. So how important is trust in an online business?
Yeah, it's paramount. I mean, the people want to shop on sites that are secure and trustworthy. And this, I think, gets forgotten because it used to be the case. If you remember, everybody back in the day was so nervous about putting their card details in online to make a purchase, and that people would just assume that if they put their card details online, then they were going to get scammed, that they would have their money stolen. I think people's trust has definitely increased as the adoption of e-commerce has become more universal, more mainstream. But there is still there's a study again from Conversion XL that showed that trust seals significantly increased trust, with 48% of respondents stating that trust badges reassure them about the security of their personal information on the site. Now, that's really interesting, right? Because even if you had two sites that both used Shopify payments powered by Stripe, so they're just as secure as each other. Both of them have all the security metrics in place. One has trust badges that tells the customer that, the other doesn't, but they're both just as secure. They're saying that the one that has the trust badges, 48% of people said that reassured them about the security of their personal information, which is fascinating because to me, when you look at it from an e-commerce entrepreneur perspective, you think, well, both are just as secure as each other, but you forget what customers who are maybe not as familiar with this industry see is the trust seal. So show them something that shows them that it's secure. There are apps you can do for this. There's like the McAfee app, the Norton app. You can have all kinds of trust badges. You can even just hard code them onto your site as like images below the add to cart button that just say like, your payment is 100% secure. We like safeguard your information, trusted security seals, things like that just show people that, okay, I'm in a safe place here. It's fascinating insight, right?
Fascinating. And something so easy to do with Shopify, just to add an app that has some trust badges on there, and immediately you're going to convert so many more customers, from that one simple action.
Yeah. The other thing is that people, and we know this, people respond to urgency and scarcity. They're two tactics which significantly influence people's buying decisions. We've got another stat here from the University of Nebraska, who found that limited time offers create a sense of urgency that can boost sales by up to 332%. So over 3 times the results when they implemented the urgency and scarcity tactics, which is incredible, right? Again, it's something like if you had 2 sites, they were both exactly the same, and one just said that time's running out and we don't have much stock remaining, that one outperformed 3 times or more than 3 times the one that didn't say anything about urgency or scarcity, which is, again, it is fascinating. And it is potentially open to manipulation, and, it can be seen as quite sometimes like desperate or a little bit cheap, in terms of a marketing technique. So I think you have to find the balance there. But the way I think of it is like, if you can find a legitimate reason for it, then it's fine. So imagine if you go to your fridge, right, and you open up the fridge and you look and there's an item in there that's like going off sell by date or use by date is in the next few days, what's your immediate reaction? It's like, oh, I've got to think of something to use that thing for, or I've got to have it today because I don't want to lose it and throw the thing away. So that is urgency in action in itself. As you can imagine, these things are very, very powerful tools, but yeah, you don't want to come across as manipulative or pushy. So you've got to find the right balance. But I think if you can find legitimate reasons and actually show that stock is, scarce and that you do only have certain number of units remaining, or for example, if you can show people that you're only reserving their cart for 10 minutes, you're not saying, hey, if you come back later, the items won't be available. You're just telling them that there's a 10-minute cart reservation timer that's ticking down, at which point your cart expires. Again, you're just forcing people along to the next step in the journey a little bit, just pushing them along and saying, like, don't hang around here, like, make the decision now and let's keep it moving. So I think there are ways that you can do it where you're not being manipulative or pushy, and they are clearly very effective. So it's why a lot of big brands use them.
Knowing that there's 3 times as many sales that you can make as soon as you add urgency and scarcity, it shows there's something there that we should all be tying into with a Shopify store. Have some form of urgency and scarcity, but then have the balance so that it's not everywhere. If you see a countdown on every single page of the website, or every product is for sale, or every product has got one left in stock, you start to realize that they're just tactics. So it needs to be a balance, but definitely include that in some way, because it's so clearly important in how everyone buys and how urgency and scarcity makes such a big difference to buying decisions. So let's have a think now about Shopify stores, and let's get a feel for like an average conversion rate so that we know what we should be aiming for and also what we should be aiming to beat.
So apparently the average for all Shopify stores in terms of conversion rates is about 1.5% up to 2%. But for high ticket stores, the conversion rate will often be below 1%. Now, people panic and freak out and they're like, I thought I needed a 2% conversion rate, but they're selling items that are £2,000 or £3,000 per sale. And I always liken this to think of walking through a high street or a shopping centre, and you've got a supermarket there with thousands of people going in, making transactions, mini transactions all the time. And then you've got the Rolex store next door with maybe only a few people per day who go through. They can afford to have a very small conversion rate because maybe they have lots of traffic that walk past, but only a few people actually make the purchase. But when they do, it's like £20,000-30,000. They can afford to have a much lower conversion rate versus the Tesco, who every customer that walks through the door is pretty much going to be purchasing something very small, right? So I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves in the high ticket e-commerce industry to have such a high conversion rate. Actually, it doesn't matter. You can have a very profitable business that makes 6 or 7 figures per year without even having that greater conversion rate.
Interesting point. I think the key metrics that we pay attention to is our return on ad spend from our Google Performance Max campaigns. And so the conversion rate is a metric that we can use to see as a proxy for improving that return on ad spend. But even if our conversion rate isn't particularly high, as long as we got a very profitable Performance Max campaign, then we know we're making money and being profitable every week.
Yeah, exactly. So if we've got customers who are in the high ticket market, for example, like the stores that we build using the Home Turf Advantage model, then you might have a conversion rate of between 0.25% or 0.8%. That's fairly typical for a high ticket e-commerce store. And as I say, it can be extremely profitable as well. But using some of the tactics that we're sharing today and will continue to be sharing throughout this episode, it's really important to note that while the conversion rate is lower for high ticket stores, it can still definitely be improved, and it can hit your bottom line profit just by making that minor tweak. So don't overlook this as an optimization strategy.
A key insight there. So we know the what, we know the why and how customers buy, but let's move on to what we can do. What actions can we take now to improve our conversion rate on our Shopify store? So let's start with the low-hanging fruit. So this is probably for new store owners, fairly new e-commerce store owners. What can they target first? What simple tweaks can they make to improve their conversion rate quickly?
Well, one of the things that filters through from the marketing right through to the experience on the store is consistent branding, right? So if you imagine that we're running retargeting ads a lot of the time to customers who have visited our store but maybe not made a purchase, if we can be showing our logo in a very recognizable form with ads with a consistent color scheme, then people see that again and again, and they start to associate that with the industry and with making that purchase. They see it on their Facebook feed, on their Google display network on the side of newspaper websites or whatever they're reading, or even on their Instagram feed. They'll see our ads. So that by the time they come back to our site, they feel like they're in the right place. Now, there are brands that do this fantastically well. So imagine if you are in a John Lewis department store, right? And you go into the kind of the garden home section, and you've got like the barbecue there, the pizza oven, you've got a patio heater, there's the lawnmowers, they're all kind of like garden related outdoorsy things next to each other. You don't walk in and see a garden table next to something completely random, like a set of hand towels, and then there's a MacBook on the next stand, and then football boot section. Like they have those sections. The football boots are in the sports section, the MacBooks are in the AV section. And they very clearly try to make each part of the store feel consistent with the theme of the products that they're selling. Sometimes they have like AstroTurf on the floor in the garden section to make it feel like it's like grass, outdoorsy, right? So that's key. You want to make your customers feel like they're in the right place when they land there. But often entrepreneurs starting e-commerce sites get shiny object syndrome, where they sign a new supplier who sells something completely different to what their store is focused on, and then they just kind of flood their site with all of these random products. So you end up with the football boots next to the pizza ovens, and it's just a bit of a strange experience for customers. So you kind of want to make sure that customers feel like they're in the right place. And in terms of that branding and that consistency, I mean, imagine if you're walking down the high street and you want a coffee, and you look up, you see that little green circular symbol with the white mermaid in it. We all know it's the Starbucks logo, right? And you can spot that a mile off without even seeing the word Starbucks. Same with the golden arches. You see the golden arches, we all know what brand that represents, right? That yellow arches. So these brands are masters at this, in getting people to associate the colors, the symbols with their brand, so that they feel, there's a sense of like, I know, like, and trust this brand. I'm going to go in and purchase something from them. So if you can tap into that psychological principle as well, and ensure that when customers reach your store, they've already seen you on social media through retargeting ads, it's all consistent with the branding and the color scheme on your websites, it can really help from a customer trust perspective.
And Shopify makes that very simple for us to choose the colors that we want for our brand, and we can enter the logo into Shopify and it will show on every page of your website. So very quickly with Shopify, these are the basics to get right, is to have your consistent colors for your brand, so people feel like they know you're very clearly professional, and you can get that set up from the very start.
Yeah, exactly. There are some real tactical things we can do, though, to actually improve the conversion rate, such as you could have a compelling banner or header bar, whatever you want to call it, on your site with your unique selling points. So what are the reasons that customers should purchase from you? Why should they stay on your site and purchase rather than go and buy the same product from a competitor's site, for example? So some things that you can include in there might be like a coupon code that gives them a certain discount if they buy a certain product or over a threshold price point of products, like free delivery on orders over £500, for example. Can you offer free delivery site-wide on all purchases? Can you offer some kind of free gift with your orders? Like if they buy the item, can you give them a free ebook or buyer's guide that's related to the type of industry that they're buying the products in? Can you give them a free accessory with the items? If so, highlight this, make it clear, make it visual, so that people have a reason to stay there and purchase from you. Make it a differentiator. What does your brand stand for? Is there a story that you can tell, a truthful, factual story, but can you kind of explain and tell that story in a very personal manner that explains like why they should purchase for you? And some companies will say that for every purchase that you make, we plant a tree, or for every purchase that you make, we donate a certain amount to charity. Like, these are reasons why customers, they're not the only reason sometimes why a customer will buy from your brand, but they definitely have a cumulative effect. If you can stack them up, then it's just giving them more ammunition and reasons to say, I'm going with this company because I like them. Sometimes people put sliders images on their homepage. Again, something I would test. We've seen that slider images where you have like one big image on the homepage and then it slides to another one and then another one, whilst they might visually look nice, they're actually quite low converting and they hinder the conversion rate of a lot of stores. Again, it will be an individual case-by-case basis, But we found when we tried it that it slowed down our stores and that 9 out of 10 customers never made it past slide 1 anyway. So it was like, what was the point in having all of that extra image file size having to load every time someone loads our website if they're never even going to see it? So that's that. I think on the product page itself, having high quality images is vital. They make a huge difference to the perceived value of your products and to customers' trust. If you can provide images from all different angles, even videos are amazing. If you can get videos from your suppliers or even go and see your suppliers, see the products yourself, take videos. They don't have to be really professional or high production quality. They can just be walkthrough videos. But remember, with e-commerce, a customer's not able to come to your store and see the products. So try and show them the products in a way that they can visualize them, get a look and feel for them, and make that buying decision right there on your website.
And through working with high quality suppliers that we sign using the Home Turf Advantage model, they'll be able to provide some really high quality images for you that you can put directly onto your website. And for a customer to see a high quality image, that's going to have a lot of trust associated with that straight away, instead of having like blurry product images that you might have seen before. And that straight away just erodes any trust that you can build with a customer. So once you've got the basics in place, so we've got a banner, we've called out some USPs, we've got some high quality images, and we've got consistent branding across our whole website. What's next? How can we take it to the next level and start to improve our conversion rate beyond the basics?
Yeah, sure. So this is, again, assuming that you're getting the right traffic coming through from high converting ads. We prefer the highest converting traffic source that we see coming through is Google Shopping ads, or often through the Performance Max campaigns now, but through the Google Shopping network. The reason for that is because the images are there and they see the products. They know it's a commercial ad because they can see the price. So it kind of self-disqualifies the click from people who maybe couldn't afford the item. So they click it, they come to the store, they know that they're there to buy something, or they're very serious about buying it. So that's why that traffic source is great. That will have the biggest impact initially on conversion rate. But once they're there, if we're discussing after the click now, as we talked about, then one of the other things is page load speed. We discussed this briefly with the sliders, but just making sure that your load speed is fast, especially on mobile, because a lot of your traffic will be on mobile. Probably the majority of your traffic will remain on mobile moving forwards. And people just don't have the patience to wait for pages to load. And if they do, if they are taking a long time to load, they'll just bounce and go to the next competitor site and buy it from there. So I think that you can do certain optimizations yourself, but also sometimes with the more complex page load speed optimization, you might want to look into hiring a developer from a site like Upwork, or hiring a Shopify expert to help with that if you have your site built on Shopify. And there are tools that you can use to assess your page load speed, like GT Metrics or Google Page Speed Insights, that will guide you through the specific things that you or your developer would need to do to optimize that page load speed. So that's a really big one, and that will help with your SEO ranking as well as your conversion rate. The other thing, and I know this from running these types of stores, is the most common question that you will likely get from customers who are thinking of buying, or prospective customers in that sense, is delivery information, both delivery cost, delivery speed, which courier you use. So what can you do to avoid this from becoming a bottleneck to people purchasing? Provide the information on your site. Make it very clear, the delivery, the handling time frame, and then the delivery time frame. Maybe it depends on where they live, but try and make it as clear as you possibly can. And every time you get a question from a customer about this, think, is there a way that I could answer that question on the product page so that everybody else who potentially has that question in the future has it answered and then would just purchase without needing to ask it? So this is the kind of systems thinking approach you have to take with this, because yes, you can answer that question, but why answer it for every one person that asks the question, there's probably 100 that didn't ask the question and just went to a different site, right? So try and answer it on that site if you can. Be as transparent as possible, because people hate hidden charges. So try and just be very, very clear on what those costs are for delivery from the outset.
Look at your website with a customer's eye. So have their point of view in mind. If you can't see something that you'd be looking for, like the delivery information, then that's a sign for you to make sure it's absolutely clear, to stop people bouncing, to stop people leaving your website. Make everything very clear for a customer. Ties into the principles we were talking about earlier. Make it as simple as possible and as clear as possible for customers, so they go straight through to their add to cart, go to checkout, and complete their purchase as quickly as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And then some other tactics like the scarcity tactics that we talked about that do work. if you're going to use this legitimately, is there a way that you can have some kind of low stock alert for items that aren't abundantly available and that you do only have limited capacity of, that you can use? Now, if you think about stores that you walk down the high street and you see that they seem to always be having, the same stores always having this closing down sale. You know, there's this like red warning banner in the window that you always see, and they overuse it, and it's like final sale, closing down, liquidation sale. And then 2 years later, you walk past that same store and they still seem to be having the same sale. And you think, might we be being manipulated here as consumers? Are they really closing down? So I think you have to use these things carefully. But if there is a legitimate way that you can build that in, then it can be a really effective tool. The other thing alongside scarcity is urgency. Now, urgency is different. Urgency is limited time offers. You arguably have a bit more control over urgency because you can choose how long you offer a certain sale for. You know, you can have a countdown timer on the cart page that says your order is reserved for X amount of time. Again, that's up to you. That's perfectly legitimate to do and genuine. You're not saying that if you then come back later and try to purchase that product, it won't be available. You're just telling them that your specific order is reserved for this time frame. It's a bit like when you're shopping in the supermarket. Have you ever heard that announcement come over the tannoy where they say, just to let you know, this store will be closing in 5 minutes? And you're like, oh wow, I need to like buy some stuff here, but I need to get my purchase done, because the last thing you want to do is take 6 minutes and then you get to the till and they say, sorry, we're closed. That's urgency in action. It forces you to focus the mind and think, how do I get this purchase done before it's too late? So effective tactics, and I'm sure it's part of the reason why they do that announcement as well. Another thing you can do is including customer reviews, and the idea of those is to obviously build trust and remove doubts, because it just enhances that likelihood of somebody converting. And the thing with social proof is, like, you know, when a friend recommends you a product and says, oh, you got to go and see this film, it's amazing, or you got to buy one of these, I've bought one of these and it's a game changer, and you just trust them, so you think, okay, I'm going to do it. You don't even really question it, because you just think, well, that person, I trust their judgment and they wouldn't recommend me something that they didn't believe in, so I'll just go and try it. Well, when customers are on your store, they might not know the other customers, but the next best thing to a friend recommending it is someone whose face you can actually show recommending it, saying the pain points that they had before buying the item, how the item fixed those pain points. So what did it provide them? How did it better their life? And also, what was their experience of the actual purchase experience with your brand? Was it fast delivery? Can they talk highly about the customer service? Now, a great app to do this is judge.me. So it's a Shopify app that you can automate this whole process to ask for post-purchase review requests from customers, and you can ask them to include images and videos as well. Then you can feature that user-generated content on your store beneath the products page or on a dedicated reviews page, which is not only incredible for conversion rate optimization, but also for search engine optimization, because the more content that Google sees coming onto your store, the higher they'll rank you. So that has a double positive effect.
Yeah, some really effective tactics in there. And it's funny, as soon as you delve into this world of e-commerce and try to improve your conversion rate, you start to notice the tactics all around you that businesses are using, and you start to pick up on what they're doing. So for example, there's a Sports Direct down the road from me that was recently moving store. So it was literally moving inside the same shopping centre, but just to the other side of the shopping centre. But they used that as a brilliant opportunity for a scarcity tactic. So they had all of you can picture the tape across the front of the store closing down, all stock must go, sale now, reduced offer on everything up to 50% off. All of these different signs across the front of the store, even though it was only that one store that was just moving a 60-second walk to the other side of the shopping centre. But they really made the most of that. And you start to see these. Same with the importance of reviews. And then you realize that the adverts on YouTube or on the TV from Google, and they're giving celebrities the Google Pixel and telling them to talk about their experience with the Google Pixel. And that was their pure marketing strategy, is social proof, to show people what others are thinking about the products. And they didn't try and sell it themselves. They just gave it to people who have used those products and got those people to sell it to others. So clearly, if we can tie into some sort of scarcity, if we can make reviews and social proof a real key strategy for our store and converting people, we can have those same benefits that these large companies have as well. So some really effective tactics. What else can our listeners do now that we're moving on to some more advanced strategies?
Yeah, well, another thing is if you sell products that are a little bit more complex and maybe you have lots of variants of the products, like different sizes, different colors, other options, things that you can tag onto them, then try and reduce the confusion as much as possible and avoid that decision paralysis that you can get when you're just presented with so many different options that you just think, oh, it's easier to just not make a decision at all and give up. Right? So think very carefully, because remember, you only have to make this decision once. As the e-commerce owner, yes, it's your job to simplify the complex, but you only have to do it once. The beauty of it is you front load that work and really think, how can I provide this in the simplest way to a customer that they can very easily make the decision and then lock it in. And then you could roll that out across your entire website, across all the products, because your virtual assistant at that point could maybe take over that process. So for example, does it make sense to have a color drop down item to show the barbecue in red, blue and green? Or does it make sense to have that split out as separate products so you can say that this product is the red barbecue, this product page is the blue barbecue, and maybe have the sizes different. But if the sizes are visually different as well, one's that big and one's that big, then maybe you need a separate product for the larger one because you want to show that in the image on Google, because you can only show one image on the Google shopping result of the larger one to get people to click it who want the larger one. So there are all these things that you have to just figure out and think very carefully about how you present the product and think what makes the most sense to the customer. If you can provide a comprehensive, a clear and simple description as well alongside the product, that can really help customers understand the product better, and it just aids in that whole decision-making process. So one tip we like to do is turn features into benefits. There's no point saying about, the materials that it's made of and the color that it has and all of this. Like, talk about what does that mean for the customer, right? And one nice way of doing this is add to whenever you think you have a feature, say which means that after it, or so that, like, so what, so for example, it's coated with a heat resistant material so that you don't burn yourself when you pick it up, right? So it's like, what's the benefit to the person who's going to be buying it? Don't just provide the feature. A great tool for doing this is something like ChatGPT. You can feed in a list of features and say, could you provide me the benefits that a human would get from these features of a product? And then that's the way you can paint a really convincing and simple product description that is very benefit driven. And also you want to talk about what pain points does the product solve. Figure out a way of what's the current pain that the customer's experiencing that this product overcomes. And if you can talk through that, that's really powerful too. And finally, end your product description on a call to action. They've read the product description, they're bought in, they're clearly very interested. So tell them what to do next. If you are in the market for a barbecue like this, then don't wait around, buy it today. Click the button below, something like that, right? An easy call to action.
Yeah, it all ties into making sure it's very simple for customers to buy and make it clear what they need to do to place their order, and they'll know exactly what they'll receive once they get it as well. On that point, is there anything else that we need to make really clear for customers before they purchase?
Well, the final thing that springs to mind would be really clearly stated policies around returns and refunds. It's a topic that as e-commerce entrepreneurs, none of us want to talk about, but we have to make sure that there's a very clear information on exchanges and returns and refunds to eliminate any potential concerns that the customers could have that might be stopping them from purchasing, right? So if there's a way that you can introduce like a risk reversal where you say, if you don't like the product, return it within 14 days and you get your full money back, something like that, then that will overall lead to a much higher conversion rate, which means that way more people will purchase, even if it means that you end up with a few more returns than you would have had otherwise. You end up with so many more overall sales that the additional admin is probably way outweighed by the additional upside profit of introducing a risk reversal guarantee like that, because you'll get so many people who don't return the product who buy it, so you'll make so much more overall profit. So I think sometimes we're a bit scared of introducing this as an option and being too forthcoming with it, but we found that if you're just very upfront about it, people realize and think, oh, well, there's no risk, I'll just purchase it. And then in the majority of cases, they like it and they keep the item. So with the Home Turf Advantage model that we use, remember, we're working with UK-based suppliers who offer very fast, usually next day or 1 to 2 working day delivery. So what that means is that if a customer doesn't like the item and they want to return it, they can. And with the types of suppliers that we work with and the types of contracts and relationships that we build with those suppliers, the suppliers are fine to take the items back too. So you're not sending a product back to China and asking the customer to pay for international delivery and all of the taxes and everything to get it back there. It's very simple. Usually the supplier can even arrange collection, or you can use a courier to arrange collection. So it's really simple and they can get their money back. And overall, you'll make way more money by having a guarantee like that in place.
Okay, so with all of these points in place, your store will start to become more mature. You'll start to turn around more sales, have a higher conversion rate, make more profit. I'm keen now to delve into how we can really supercharge our conversion rate. What can we do to significantly increase our conversion rates and make that difference now that we're mature? How can we get to that next level?
Yeah, so once your store's up and running and you have the basics covered, the next thing would be to see which of the products are you seeing the most traction from, which are you selling the most, and then maybe around those products you make a no-brainer offer, as we call it, to ensure that the deal is so good that customers feel that they just can't pass up on buying it. So for example, you've got a particular barbecue on your site, it's selling really well. Can you sweeten the deal by saying, when you purchase this barbecue, you not only get this free barbecue glove, you get this free set of tongs as well, and you get this barbecue cookery recipe ebook delivered to your inbox the moment you purchase it. Oh, and by the way, it's free returns if you don't like it, so just send it back for free within 14 days. That is so much more compelling and won't even cost you that much more, because the tongs and the barbecue glove are probably like £10-15. If the barbecue itself is like £1,500 or something, or £1,000, it's because it's a super high end one, then you can really add that higher level of perceived value without actually a lot of cost to the business. So it's such a good way of doing it. And then just keep tweaking and testing. Is there a way you can bundle that offer maybe with another accessory item that you can increase the overall price of it, but just again make it simpler and easier for that customer to purchase? So that's another great thing you can do. We talked a bit about reviews, but just generally user-generated content can have such an advantage over just these stock professional photos that a supplier might provide you for items. So having things like customer photos, customer videos, testimonials can be a great way to build trust and build community around your brand as well. Because remember, with the user-generated content, with these customer photos, you can incorporate that into your after-sales email flows. So you can take the photos from an app like Judge.me that we use, then incorporate those into Klaviyo as a post-purchase or a post-abandoned cart email sequence for that specific product or group of products or brands, and just show, so-and-so bought this product and here's what they had to say about it. Here's why it changed their life. Here's how much they loved it and the easy buying experience that they had. And then you kind of just continue to share other people who were on the verge of making that decision that they were, how it changed their life, how their life is happier now that they have the product, and remind them about the risk reversal, the guarantee. And typically it's the thing that can help get people off the fence. You can also post those reviews on social media. So get them out on your Facebook, Instagram page, wherever else you can get profiles. And another clever thing you can do is take the content themselves and make them into ads. So take the images, take the videos, and then you can put them into, like for example, in Facebook ads, there's the carousel feature, which like auto makes a video ad out of just a load of images that you add. And you can just put some stock text and some stock music in the background, and the whole thing will kind of work as a video. Or you could get a bit more creative and go to someone on Fiverr or on Upwork, a videographer, and have them create a really slick ad using user-generated content that you could put a brand watermark over that then becomes your content that none of your competitors can then use. So all of these strategies are so powerful, but remember, all of them are futile without having the right traffic in the first place. So we just believe that Google Ads is the most targeted traffic for that, more so than Facebook, because it's intent-based. Customers are searching for a product to buy. You're not trying to, win them over from a scroll through their social media, friends, photos and stuff like that and convince them of this £1,000 plus product that they should purchase. Instead, they're looking for it. So we just get in front of those people, and it's just a way cheaper way to make sales as well in a much more targeted fashion. So you'll just end up with a higher conversion rate by default by using that kind of traffic.
Yeah, such an important point about the traffic that we get. And there's been so many tips and tricks there that we've shared for listeners that I'm sure as soon as they take action on one or two of these steps that we've talked about today, their increase in conversion rate can be drastic overnight, make huge differences with some of the things we've talked about today. So definitely, hopefully this has been helpful for people and people can take this all on board, make those changes and start to skyrocket their business using some tactics that we've discussed today. So thank you for all of that, Lewis. Before we answer a question from a listener, do you have any final points that you'd like to share on the key topic of conversion rate optimization?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is such an important topic. It's something that if you get it right, it can have truly life-changing impacts because it will increase your profit. And it is one of the very few levers that if you just increase that, you change nothing else, your profit could double. If you want our help to set up your store with a step-by-step guide, then visit dropshipunlocked.com/free. Just a quick heads up, if you'd like to share your questions, stories, successes, or challenges, you can email us directly at podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. And you never know, we might even feature you on the next podcast episode.
Also, if you want access to today's show notes or any of the resources we've mentioned in the episode today, then head over to dropshipunlocked.com/podcast. We also have a small favour to ask of you. If you enjoyed the show so far, you could take a minute to leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice.
You wouldn't believe how much your reviews help us grow the podcast. We'll even read out some of our favourites on the next episode. So if you want to be featured on the show, please do go ahead and leave us a review today. Thanks so much for your support. We really couldn't do it without you, and we absolutely love hearing what you think of the podcast.
Now it's the part of the show where we answer a question from one of our listeners. And so remember, if you want your questions answered on an upcoming podcast episode, then simply email us at podcast@dropshipunlocked.com. Send us your question and we'll be keen to answer that on an episode coming soon. So that's exactly what Marie has done. So this question was sent in by Marie in an email, and she said, I know you talk about the home turf advantage model, but can we still work with suppliers who are abroad?
Hi, Marie. Thank you for the question. And in answer to your question, yes, you can, but do you really need to? And I'll explain what I mean about that. So with the home turf advantage model, it's all about working with suppliers who have stock in the UK, of which there are thousands of them, right? So this means that we achieve fast, often next day delivery. It's very simple. There aren't any customs duties, importing taxes. There's no long delays. There's no shipping delays. There's none of that stuff. It's all there. Nothing has to cross a border. It can be very quickly sent out to customers. And that is one of the key advantages of using the home turf advantage model. So the way that we teach people in our program is to find suppliers done in a way that focuses on finding UK suppliers straight away, right? So we are helping people determine which market to go into. And one of the criteria for determining a market is finding the prevalence of UK-based suppliers who are in the UK and have stock there. Now, just to clarify, that doesn't mean that the supplier only operates in the UK. Sometimes there'll be global brands who have a UK-based wholesaler or UK-based distributor who are like an authorized distributor. Usually they don't sell directly to consumers and they sell their products through a retailer network of retailers like us. So if we can just slot into place in that market, it doesn't matter if it's a global brand. What we're looking for is the prevalence of a UK-based supplier who have stock here already that's passed through customs if it's manufactured abroad, and that we can then just dispatch directly out to customers. So that's something that I would consider. If a supplier in your niche is abroad and you're considering partnering with them and they only have the stock abroad, you've got to ask yourself, is it worth the extra complexity to work with them? Firstly, that means, is the profit margin going to be high enough after you take into consideration international shipping, customs export or import duty, and just the product quality as well? Like, are you happy that they're a really high quality brand? Are they really in demand? And is this a good strategic move for your business? Is the demand so high that it's worth going through that complexity in order to do it? Because we do it for some brands who only operate abroad. And for us, we made the decision that yes, it is, because we'll make £500, £600, £700 in profit every time one of those sales comes through. So even if it's just a few of those per week, that's still worth doing. It might take 5-10 minutes of admin here and there to fill in a few forms, pay a bit of VAT to, the courier. But if not, I would then just stick to the UK, because if you're not sure and you're just thinking of signing them because they said yes to you and you're quite early in the journey, then perhaps it's easier. I mean, there are thousands of brands in the UK, thousands of suppliers and wholesalers in the UK whose products you can distribute. And so in week 2 of our program, we have a selection criteria that helps ensure that whatever niche you go into, there is an abundance of suppliers and that you won't be short of choice. So I think that's one of the things before you start registering for EORI numbers and paying customs tax and importing products to the UK, ask yourself, is that the kind of complexity you want to take on right now? Because if not, stick to UK only, stick to the home turf advantage model because it's proven, we know it works, and hopefully it can work for you as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lewis. Now we're going to highlight a review from a listener, and this review has come in recently from King Nax, and he shared his thoughts by saying, this podcast is perfect to listen to for those like me that are skeptical with the dropshipping model before deciding whether or not to do the course. So Lewis answers the questions that listeners send in and helps ease the concerns that many people may have. I haven't listened to all the podcasts yet. However, the ones I have listened to have given me more confidence. I'm looking forward to applying to the dropship course in the near future, pending successful application. So thank you for your review, King Nax, that you left through Apple Podcasts.
King Nax, thank you very much. We're honoured to have a review from someone like yourself. So thank you so much for the positive feedback. And if you're listening to us now and you'd like to hear your review read out on the podcast, then please do leave us a rating and review on whichever platform you're tuning in from, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you use, or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel, and we'd love to feature your review in the next episode. And don't forget to share this episode of the podcast. If there's someone in your own life that you think, I could change the course of the rest of their life by just sharing this episode or this podcast with them, then click the share button, pick out a couple of your friends on WhatsApp and send this over to them, because you never know, this could be the message that changes the course of the rest of their life, and they'll have you to thank for it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you found today's episode useful and inspiring.
Remember, if you're ready to take the next step towards creating your own high-ticket dropshipping business, our step-by-step mentorship program can help. Just head to dropshipunlocked.com/free to learn more and get started on your own journey to financial independence.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss another episode, and leave us a review if you've enjoyed what you hear today. We love hearing from our listeners, and we'll even read out some reviews on the next episode.
And finally, thanks for choosing to spend your time with us today. We really appreciate you, and we'll be back soon with more valuable insights and tips on high-ticket dropshipping.